we start out with 15 minutes of discussion on clubs, where they're at, status, and then we go into our program. So I'll invite you to unmute, and then we will go ahead. Did you hear it? Oh, well. Do you see the 4-way test? Okay, let's go ahead and recite the 4-way test to get started. The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build
goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial
To all concerned.
So here's our agenda today. Again, we'll go through 15 minutes, up to 15 before the program, and then our program today is RILA. And we have some guest speakers here from District 5630. So I want to remind everybody about the mute and unmute. Background noise is pretty irritating, and some people are really sensitive to it. And so please be considerate. If you unmute, be sure to mute back up. If you go down to the bottom of your big screen, in the middle, there's a participants button. If you push that, you can get a list of all the participants. You can message them. But there's also a feature that is raise hand. If you hit that, that puts a little hand up by your name. And then Nicole is kind of our monitor, and she will call on you as she sees you. I mean, this is not the easiest thing, at least for me. And if you would, hold your, unless the speaker says otherwise, hold your questions to the end. And also another feature is the chat box. If you go down to the center, hover over your center screen and go down to the bottom, there's a chat box, and you can pull that up and do chats with people. Let's see, one more thing. Oh, if you're on the phone, *6 toggles mute and unmute, and *9 raises and lowers your hand. So with that, let's go ahead and get into club status. So how are people doing with their communications? I'll start out. My club, Hot Springs, had their first Zoom meeting. I was so surprised that they even entertained the idea, but they got on, and it was really good. And they're going to have their second one this week, so that was pretty exciting. Daniel, have you had a Zoom meeting? Have you figured out how to get with your club?
No, we have not. I still want to, but like I said, our average attendance at our meetings anyways was pretty much 10 or 12 people. So I'm going to speak with Rich, and we're going to figure out our best plan moving forward, because we do need to do some sort of communication as this continues to drag out.
Yeah, good. Is anybody meeting in person still? I mean, that is possible.
Tammy?
We're not, nobody's meeting in person that I know, but Sioux City did start meeting via Zoom on Monday, and they intend to continue doing that weekly. I think we had 23 people on, maybe, at one point, which sometimes would be a regular meeting attendance. And the first topic was kind of how to do Zoom, and it was about a 20-minute or so presentation from somebody on Zoom etiquette and a business meeting and that kind of thing. So it went well, and they're gonna go forward with weekly meetings from here.
Great. So what else is out there? I know that there's at least one club using Facebook Live. Anybody else using that or another platform?
Mary?
We're not. We're using Zoom, and we had our second meeting on Monday, and we were joined by a former youth exchange student from Germany who is actually going to school in Sweden, but is back home in Germany for the time being. And she joined our meeting on Monday. So we had a great meeting. We didn't have great attendance, but it's a start. And we're going to meet every Monday via Zoom.
That is a great idea, Larry. To invite our former exchange students to log on and just catch the whole club up with what's going on in their life.
Well, actually, she invited herself. She contacted me on Easter, wish me a happy Easter. And she was here 10 years ago. And she was planning, she's visited us 2 or 3 times. She was planning to come this summer. And she has an affinity for fishing, as do I, and we had taken her fishing, and interestingly, our program on Monday was about fish stories, kind of getting everybody off the track, and she joined us, and she's planning to join us again every Monday. So it's
that's great. I talked a couple weeks ago to Samuel Kung from Switzerland, who's now a med student. He is starting his residency, and his first assignment was to step on the firing line of going in to care for corona patients. And he was anxious, but he was ready. And I got to hear that story. It'd be wonderful if he could take some time out. Of course, they're 7 hours ahead of us, so. Yeah, and we meet at noon. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Well, they're 7 hours. Germany, they're 7 hours ahead of us too. But yeah, she brought us up to date on a lot of things, including what's happening in that part of the world on the coronavirus. So, and I don't want to monopolize the discussion here. I'll shut up.
Well, you keep up coming with good ideas, and who cares if you monopolize?
Dana?
Just briefly, one idea, our club has not been meeting, but we're having our first Zoom meeting tomorrow with a Zoom presenter. But the other thing we talked about when we first ceased meetings was using that hour every week to do some community service or find out what's needed. So still doing Rotarian stuff, not necessarily doing it face to face, but assess community needs or do something to help our communities. But like schedule the time, like make sure you do it every week.
All great ideas. So we did have a pretty good, robust conversation in the pre-meeting about serving community and what the needs are. Anything you want to mention briefly? Anybody want to mention briefly that just came on or might want to emphasize again? We talked about, I'm sorry, please.
I'm sorry, I looked down the list to see who, I see Jennifer from my club is here, but we're doing Zoom meetings. Actually the second or the third one was today. But you were asking some things to do, and I was thinking about maybe how you can promote. We've been checking, different people have been checking, like with our local volunteer groups, like our Mission, the Hope Center. And, sometimes you find out simple things that people can do. The Hope Center wants socks. So people are looking at, if they make a run to a store, they'll pick up socks and drop them off. But you could also coordinate that with maybe one person from a club being willing to go down and perhaps even just have a Rotary shirt or Rotary something on, particularly where it's to a volunteer group and you're not singling out any particular person. But we found that the Rotary meetings online are going pretty well.
Chuck? Oh, Chuck, I think you need to unmute.
I'm sorry, we okay now?
Yes.
Our 2 clubs in Marshall, we've been communicating with emails, and we put together a program where we've got 11 iPads that'll be here Thursday, and these will be in the assisted living apartments. We've had some news of severe depression and suicide thoughts that people couldn't communicate with their loved ones. So we have some iPads that will be going into area assisted livings, hospice homes, and some nursing homes. And that's what we've been trying to do. We're going to try to have a Zoom meeting maybe in a good week or so. That's all I have.
Yeah, another great idea. The elder community and communal living situations can be kind of brutal. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Chuck, this is Lauren. Did you have a source for a bulk order of 11 iPads?
Yes, a local computer firm here. And we've actually, our money went much farther by getting refurbished units, which have a guarantee on them, and some of our members are very familiar with that. So that's what we did, extend our dollars. We got them for $1.99 a piece, and that included a case and a year's worth of warranty and IT support from where we purchased them.
Cool. Good idea.
We also, while I got everybody on, I forgot the video was off. We also made the front page of the paper today, honoring a Rotarian that's been there with us for 62 years. He had a 55th birthday yesterday. We did social distancing with many of our Rotarians out there. The headline is 95 years old, 62 years as a member of Rotary.
Wow, that's just awesome. That is fabulous. What else is out there?
Good Sam Nursing Home in Sioux Falls. You probably have seen it in the news. Why they're at 43 cases in that one location, and that's kind of scary for our loved ones who are in those facilities.
Yeah, definitely.
Jesse?
Hi there. I'm with the Foster Grandparent and Senior Companion Programs, and our volunteers are all on hold right now as they're all 55 and up. And we have several of them that have been calling into our offices. So we're just kind of keeping the lines open because, as one of the fellas said earlier, that seniors are having trouble with some depression. So we're just making sure that we're available because they're so used to having that routine and being able to volunteer, and they've been told now they're not allowed to go out.
Jesse, do you want to take a moment and just tell about Rock Valley, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
The
Rock Valley's emphasis on seniors. It's almost a special interest club with their elder support in their community.
Yep. The Rock Valley Rotary Club is set up as a 401(c)(3) or 401(c)(3) so that they can be a nonprofit sponsor for our federal program, because we get our funding through the Corporation for National Community Service, and I'm the director of the program and a Rotary member as well. But we have two programs. We have our foster grandparents who go to the schools and they spend time in the classrooms with the kids, and with schools being shut down and only online classes happening at all right now, the seniors really miss the kids. So they're calling into the office to talk to the staff. They're wondering if school isn't going to be open, if there's going to be any kind of summer program. So we're encouraging them and helping them to reach out to libraries for this summer in case we get the opportunity for public to be able to connect again. But we also want to try and keep our volunteers protected, as they are that at-risk population. And then our senior companions, the majority of them are also on hold. We do have a temporary allowance from our grant that we're able to still give them their stipend. But they're wanting to be able to do more. Everybody's going a little stir crazy at home. So The ones that are a little bit younger and don't have those underlying risk health issues, we've been allowing to help some of their clients that are homebound. They don't have anybody else. And more of those are in our Sioux City area.
Great. Well, it's time to get into our program, and today it's RYLA, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. We have been partnering with District 5630, and Dave Lorenz is the leader for our district. And I will stop sharing and turn it over, control the meeting over to him so he can introduce our program. Dave?
Well, thanks, Governor Ina, and welcome from Vermillion. I do serve currently as the district RYLA chair and get tremendous help from our administrative assistant, Nicole Rodden. But just to give you a little background, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, or RYLA, takes different ways of producing programs in different localities, but it's really focused primarily on people between the ages of 13 and 30. We happen to be very fortunate to partner with District 5630, Great Plains Rotary, RYLA. Wonderful people, run a first-class Rotary camp in the summer in July, and it's been a real benefit to our district. As you may know, our district was not involved in RYLA, and through connections with the district governor at the time when I was district governor, we were invited to participate with 5630 and send high school sophomores and juniors from our district to their camp. And a couple of them that attended last year are actually on the call today and will be making some comments. But anyone that has gone, the response has been one of the best experiences of their lifetime. So it's a very profound thing. Ina has served as a camp counselor there, so she may have some comments to make too. But at this time, I want to introduce some great friends from 5630. Ina has already introduced their sitting governor, Scott McLaughlin, who's a great person and a great person to work with. But I'm going to turn it over to Monty Vanasek, who is actually the current camp head honcho, and let him introduce, if he wants, Cynthia Holden at some point. Cynthia, I believe your title is camp director, and it's just been a real pleasure to work with them, and I can't state again how important and valuable it's been for them to open their arms to campers from 5610. So Monty, enough of me. You take it from there. I will tell you that our two campers, Morgan Lee and Anna Meyer, have joined us. So you're in charge, and proceed however you wish.
Okay, well, greetings from Holdrege, Nebraska. I sit through your first part of your meeting, and quite interesting that you're able to come together. And, you know, we've had some socioeconomic events over the last couple of years with the flooding and then the COVID-19, that this is what Rotary is all about, service above self. And wow, who would have visioned those sorts of things to be happening? So some people ask, are you still going to have camp? Plan is yes, we do that in July. So we still don't know. We've really dictated that by the university system supports the 4-H camp is supported with a lot of university workers. And so we are under a waiting game to see if we're actually going to have camp this year. So that'll work itself out as we move through. To start with, I did want to give a shout out to Nicole and David and Ina. You have put in more hours than anybody realizes with this, trying to mesh into our system. It's not a perfect system by any manner, but we just have to, I'm going to reiterate this, it's all about the kids. And you guys have put in numerous hours. Ina, you have come to camp twice, and I've gotten to know you, and great leadership, and I thank you for your input. As far as from District 5630, Scott McLaughlin, District Governor, has been a counselor at camp for a couple of years. Last year, actually had some very personal issues. He made a commitment to camp, and I just was amazed that he stayed with us at camp with what he was going on in his personal life at that point. Scott, thank you publicly for that. Cindy has graciously accepted helping us out with a lot of the administrative things that happen as we go through camp. So as far as the program today, I fly by the seat of my pants. I'm sorry about that. I grew up by South Dakota, and then I moved south, but this is where the car broke down. So I am glad to have Morgan and Anna are going to give some of their experience after a while. So I'm going to talk, turn it over to Morgan and Anna, and then Cindy and I, and if Scott wants to make some comments at that point, and then if we could hold our questions until the end, and then whoever wants to jump in on those answers, I would appreciate their input. So I'm going to refer to the website greatplainsryla.org, and it's really a pretty good website that Cindy has been working on quite a bit lately to really give you a lot of overview, and that's where the workings come in as far as selection and applications and other parts of camp. So I refer and I challenge you to glance at that website at some point. RYLA stands for Rotary Youth Leadership Award, and it, again, it is about the kids. We have Interact programs, we have Rotaract. This is separate from those, and we're really just trying to mold those future leaders and give some direction as we move through in our lives. Because we want them to be leaders, but we want to use Rotary principles. I was listening to one of your comments about some gifting before with all this tremendous need that we have. Just run that through the 4-way test. Is it fair to all concerned? Maybe. We do that with scholarships. We have an application process and a selection process. So just as long as you do that, I challenge you, that's the right heart. Do we do it in the right way? That's my comment on that. So the camp at 5630 evolved from a separate male and female camps that were held back to back. Then we went to a co-ed camp for 6 days. We have molded it down to 5. We've really, quite honestly, struggled for adult involvement in camp for senior counseling. That's really one of our big struggles. The kids clamor for this. Our youth leadership comes from past attendees in camp. And once they've drank the Kool-Aid, it is, we have a leadership team and then junior counselors that we will have 15 to 18 youth that are involved in the leadership on camp. Like I say, we still are struggling for that commitment of adults to come in and basically herd the cats at this point in time. So that's a struggle. You know, Pateo's principles and 80-20, I feel that we have more moved in our society to a 90-10. And honestly, the people on this call are the 10%. And I have a strong faith that I feel Rotary is tied to my faith very strongly. And, you know, we're on this call because we are the leaders. We care about what is going on in the world today. The camp is really structured to encourage the youth to lead, and we are there to guide them, give some direction, in the things that we need to accomplish through camp. We want to make this fun, but we want to make this an experience that they will remember. So it is about the kids. And as far as Rotary principles that we bring out, actually on the four-way test, sometimes we add, there's a fifth part to the four-way test, is it having fun? And so we'll scream that out sometime. When I say it at our local meeting at the end, they kind of go, what are you talking about? But they understand it once we get. So one of the camp principles, service above self. That is something that's very important. We actually, the campers don't know it until the end of camp, but we're watching through the days, and we have daily service above self awards that we are just watching people. And is it just the matter of carrying a water cooler? We're in a very remote location at Halsey National Forest. Cell signal's terrible. We take the phones away from the kids anyway. And so this is a camp where very little connection is held with the outside world, because we want them to be immersed in the program that we're in. And we have, during this time of COVID, we've started cruises in the area. And, you know, it's just, I'm old enough that I remember those days where we used to cruise Maine, and the young kids are going, why would you do that? And after about 20 minutes of watching it, they're jumping into it and waving and honking. So, you know, it's just, those are things that we want to have these kids involved with. Another principle that we've used is paying it forward. Rotary principle, we feel, and that has been a struggle of what program can we use that ties across the part. Last year, we have, the last 11 years, we've ran what we call Big Red Blowout. It's selling tickets to a Husker football game for a trip. One of our largest sales came out of your District 5610 attendee. So we didn't think that we'd be able to tie it in, but some of them did. The other thing that's supposed to happen from camp that we maybe haven't followed up on very well is the service projects the students are supposed to do when they get back home. There are RILA representatives that go over different schools in the area. I'm the RILA rep for my area, and I've done a very poor job at following up after the fact to make sure what they're doing for their projects. But I do try to keep in touch with the attendees and just make sure that they are still utilizing some of the principles that we learned at camp. So the camp is set up with teams. We have set the format up with 8 teams. It's a competition. Some people really like to keep score. Some it's not so important to, but in life, we're going to keep score. And we want people to understand there is going to be scores kept, but is that the most important thing that happens in life? No. So that's a theme as we go. We really are trying to take these students out of their comfort zone and bring them to life events. And so that's where I said about no personal devices, and we're in a very remote location. If we do give them their phones, they struggle to get signal. So it really would not be necessary with them. We challenge the campers in a number of ways, whether physically, mentally, just really try to make them stronger. And sometimes that involves making them understand they may be vulnerable, and how do we help them get through things. One of the biggest things we've noticed in our youth leadership is these, most of the attendees are the leaders in their local environments, their schools, their cities. And what we've really found is once they are able to connect with each other, they start to understand that I'm supposed to be the strong one. I'm supposed to be the one that's rock solid. And they're contending with issues, a myriad of issues. And when they start to hear that their peers are having the same things they're contending with, they start to go, wow, you know, it is okay to be weak. It is okay to say, I need help with something. And when they find very strong people that are struggling with things, it's really, I think, one of the foundations of the camp that these students makes it a changing event in their lives. I was personally going to do a senior counselor for 1 year. That was 6 years ago. Now I'm the chairman of District 5630 RILA. I drank the Kool-Aid, and I see the changes that are made in the students, and it's changed my life. And I've been involved in a number of different leadership groups and camps and boards. And this is one that really, really connects for me. The common thread that I hear after camp is that this was a life-changing event. It's not just words. Not everybody is that way, but the vast majority of people have come back and said, wow, I really didn't want to go. Cindy is an example. Her daughter is on our overall leadership team. I think she was trying to hide in the trunk when Cindy brought her to camp to go back home. She did not want to be involved in that. And now she is a major player in the organization. This is the first time we've had a second time leadership team leader step back into this. So that is just, that kind of tells the story to me. Morgan or Anna, whichever one of you would want to give your presentation next, I would appreciate that.
So Morgan has a presentation. Nicole, do you need to turn it over to us to share this screen, or can we just do that? Little technical stuff here.
You're muted, Nicole.
Go ahead and take your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom and you'll see the icon.
For share screen. Okay, we're gonna give this a go.
And as long as you have it up, there you go. We can see it.
All right, there you go. It's all yours.
Okay, so my name is Morgan Lee, and this is actually the presentation that I used for my club. So it's gonna have just like some pictures that are just gonna go through. So I am from Lamar's, and I am 17 years old. I have two brothers. They are 15 and 13. Things that I'm involved in are leadership club. I dance at Central Dance Academy. I'm in tennis at my school. I am in the Costa Clovers 4-H club. I also am in Spanish club, and I am involved in my church. I work at the Lamar's YMCA and outdoor pool as a lifeguard and now a WSI. I am also a checker at Fairway, and now I am a senior because Reynolds closed our school, and at school I recently got my CNA license so I can do that and work in like a nursing home. And when in my future, I would like to do something in the healthcare field. My plans this summer are to work at the outdoor pool if they open as a lifeguard and a WSI, and also to work at Fairway. I am also planning to show pigs at the fair this summer as well. So some things that we did is we did a day where we did service projects in the morning, and then in this picture we're writing some thank you cards to our club, and we did like team chants, and they did a RILA Olympics, and so that one was an egg drop. And then that is the picture on the right is a picture of all of us standing in a circle in the morning, and we like do a pledge, and yeah, and then that we do an etiquette night as well. So, and then we do a dance one night, and yeah. So there's just a lot of fun things that we did, and it was a really, really fun experience, and I met a lot of cool people that I still keep in touch with, and yeah, so. there's our whole entire group that went. So,
Morgan, I'm just seeing the introductory screen.
is it not going through?
Oh,
Me
you
too.
didn't see the rolling pictures?
No.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Is it, do you have a message at the top says protected view and then go to slideshow? Are you?
Yeah, we can see the slideshow on ours. So this is the first time that we've done, this here. So we're gonna give this one more try here. And maybe. So this is Zoom Education 101 for screen sharing. So let's try this again.
If you have multiple monitors, that maybe.
We don't, we just have one. So do you see the clicking through now?
Yes.
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 Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We'll go back to the beginning and maybe just click through them. Lots of pictures of Morgan and pictures of Anna. Okay, so this is what you saw the whole way through, is that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. So there you go. Do you want to just talk through the pictures just a little bit then?
Okay, so that's all of us in like before we left. So Namal is from Sioux City, and then Anna was when we first got there, and we did a team building project, and that was fun. And yeah.
And now are you seeing the pictures roll?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That was part of the Rile Olympics, and he did like highs and low type things, like building activities. And there's more of those. And there's more of the Rile Olympics.
So those are group pictures. That's
Yeah,
what you like.
that's the group picture of everyone. Yeah. What?
So what was the ratio of boys to girls or girls to boys?
It was a lot of girls, like more girls than there was guys, but it was like maybe there's a lot of girls, and there's probably like 20 guys, maybe, I think. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any questions?
Morgan, where was this held again?
It was in the Halsey National Forest in Nebraska.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Morgan, thank you very much for that. Typically, ratio is about 25 to 30% guys, and the balance young ladies. So it's been that way for the last 5 to 6 years. Don't know why for sure, but that's been typically the spread on that. So Morgan, thank you very much for your presentation. Anna, did you want to say a few words, please?
Yeah, so you asked about the ratio
Anna?
of guys to girls.
Anna?
My group, so
Anna, could you a little closer to your microphone, please?
yeah. My group, is that better? Your internet connection is unstable.
Hey, Nicole, this is Scott.
one thing that Anna can do that'll probably help, if you would take her video offline and just let her speak. We won't be able to see her, but we can at least hear her. Bandwidth is not, she doesn't have enough internet connection to be able to carry both signals. Go ahead again, Anna.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear.
Is that better?
It's
Yes.
better.
Yes, we can hear.
Much better. We didn't think that you didn't have video to see our head shaking. Sorry.
So you talked about earlier about the ratio from guys to girls. My group specifically had 2 guys and 5 girls, if that helps you understand it better.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think overall, Ryla was honestly life-changing. I remember the night before, I didn't go to bed until like 11 o'clock because our team had just made state softball, and so I was really excited. And then my mom came in the next morning and woke me up at 4:30 because we had to leave, and I still hadn't packed. But I remember because I was in the car and I was crying because I was like, I don't want to go. Our team just made softball. I want to go here. I want to hang out with my friends. And then I remember leaving the camp, and then I was crying because I didn't want to leave the camp. Yeah, but otherwise it was honestly life-changing. I met so many people that I still talk to today that are seriously some of my closest friends. And overall it was amazing.
Anna, this is Dave Lorenz. Can you and Morgan maybe share one thing in particular that you brought home that you learned from there? Is it greater self-confidence or your leadership skills, or what do you think you learned there that is part of your life today?
One thing that happened to me was I think I actually became like a better leader. So the night after I got back, I went to go see my best friend, and there was a pile of garbage in the middle of the road. I stopped the car, I got out, I picked up the garbage, and I threw it away in a trash can. And my friend looked at me and she goes, "Oh my goodness, you've actually changed." And I was like, "For the better." Thank you.
So I've actually always been extremely scared to talk in front of people, and since I've gotten back, there's like so many things where you've had to like speak up about different things, and it's a lot easier. I don't get as nervous to talk in front of people now, and I feel like I just have a lot more self-confidence in that way. So that's been pretty changing.
Thank you, ladies, very much. That, I think, in a nutshell, that shows you what this experience is for the majority of the participants in camp. Sure, you're going to have those ones that they feel the hesitation. They never really connect, but we do everything possible to engage them, and that's their choice if they decide not to. But the ones that really buy in, and like I said, it has truly been a life-changing event many years down the road for some of these students as I've followed them through college and their life. But it's just really trying to make better people for, our ancestors said that we were taking the world a heck in a handbasket. We could have that tendency of negativity to possibly say that about the next generations of people as we move forward. They are the rock stars that are coming up with the new ideas that we've done all the other stuff. They're the ones that are taking us to the new levels, and maybe they don't do it the way that we think they should, but that's a problem I have. That's not their problem. And so, wow. Thank you, ladies, for taking the time this morning to give us your input on what camp was. Cindy, would you want to make a few comments?
Sure. Just on the male-female ratio, this year we're running 50-50, which is interesting. with applications. I know that'll change, but as of right now, it's pretty even. I saw a question in the chat I think we'll address right away with, if we don't get enough attendees, this is from Jennifer, would you open it up to freshmen? We have actually ran that question by our leadership team. They're the pros, not Monty or I. Their response to me has been, it depends on their maturity. If you're talking freshmen as in incoming sophomores, it would probably be okay. But if you're talking about current 8th graders becoming freshmen, some of the conversations that I think Anna and Morgan can address this, they get kind of deep and pretty intense. So yeah, you said 9th to 10th graders. And I would look at I know one group out of District 5630 is sending a 2B 10th grader. I think we handle it case by case. Monty, what do you think?
Yes, I agree with that. It's amazing the levels of maturity that we see every year as we go through secondary education. And the biggest danger I see is them feeling very uncomfortable in that situation. It overcomes it. We have had freshmen, incoming sophomores at camp before on a very isolated basis. Talking to them afterwards, they kind of said, oh, maybe it would have been better to wait a year to come to camp.
Mr. Mary, you have a question?
I have a comment. I've had the privilege of the last 2 years of transporting students to camp and back. And without exception, the kids I took down there were not the kids that I brought home. It was amazing. And Ina will attest to this too, because she's been in a similar situation. But the first year we took kids down there and we left camp, all the South Dakota and probably Minnesota student or two. And we caravanned, we got all the way to Valentine, which is 60 miles away, before we stopped and had a reunion. One of our students is going back this year as a staff member, and it's her 3rd year at camp. She went as an incoming junior, went back last year as a camp photographer, and is going this year as a counselor. And she just can't say enough about camp. So I would just encourage every club to just support the daylights out of it. It's an amazing, life-changing program.
I will say, currently online applications are closed because we closed them the 15th. That said, Nicole and Dave, I'm going to send you a link that's kind of a back door into the site that your District 5610 people can use to register online. We do need to know, well, we wanted to know May 15th, but with the way the world is up in the air right now with COVID-19, still, I think middle of May, we need to know who's planning to attend so we can make our plans on our side. I'm pretty sure we have adequate staff, but we do need to let the camp staff, let Sean and his staff know dietary needs, how many people to plan on so we get appropriate cabins. We had thought we were going to be able to open up to a lot more campers this year, but now with the potential of having to do a little more social distancing, even in July, we might have to limit a little bit. The conversations are just occurring of how many Halsey could accommodate with some type of distancing. I think our numbers are okay because the whole camp could have accommodated 180. And so we think we'll be okay. We'll just have to use more spaces. But that said, that also means, like Monty said, we're going to need more adult counselors. And we really would like to invite individuals from 5610 to come down and help us with that. So we have adequate counselors to cover all the cabins we expect to be using. And then be aware those medical forms are going to become even more important now. Even if camps go forward, what we're hearing, I work with UNL with the extension, so I get to hear these talks 2 and 3 times a week. We really need medical information, contact information, allergies, pre-existing medical conditions, medications, permission to treat, as well as health insurance, because if someone would get ill at camp, we need to be able to seek medical attention immediately for them. So that for me, and I know we had a couple of issues last year, both District 5610 and 5630 with not getting medical forms right away. So it's just more to be aware. I don't think you said this, Monty, but we're looking at knowing by June 1st. UNL's 6 weeks out on every call they make. They have now canceled all activities through June, just because of training that was going to have to occur in order to have activities occur. Training's now scheduled for the 2nd week of June so that they can have July activities and some limited June activities. So we'll know around the 1st of June what their plans are. So that's all I have to say.
Well, I'll pick up on that, Cindy. I appreciate the lead in. We are still interested, for those of you from 5610 on this call, in getting some more potential applicants. And Nicole and I will be continually communicating, particularly with club presidents and presidents-elects, so that they know our deadlines and our procedures. We have, in the past 2 years, sent roughly between 10 and 12 people each year. This year, because of the health situation and our loss of being able to communicate more regularly with especially camp or school officials and counselors, we currently have 4 people committed to going. And I did reach out to each of them this week, and 2 young men and 2 young women, and they are still committed to going. So anyone on this call that happens to know someone that meets the criteria, please tell them it's not too late to consider it, because we would, Nicole and I would be happy to work with them. So thank you for that lead in, Cindy.
Okay, we're a little bit over, so we need to wrap up, but it is greatplainsryla.com.
Org.
Org.org. I will put that in the chat here. I do want to make one comment about being a senior counselor, and that is, it is also a life-changing event. You get to see these kids develop exponentially over just a few days. The duties are pretty light for a senior counselor. It's pretty much the junior counselor show. You're there for backup, you're there for perspective, and you're there for safety. So it is pretty light duty most of the time, but really a life-changing event for the seniors as well.
I have 4 questions, if I could. Maybe you want to, like you did before, bring it to a close officially, and then for those that want to hang on, they could do that.
I will do that. So I'm going to share the screen to ring us out, and then we will have the after party, I guess. Have a great day, and those that want to stick around, please do. Oh, one thing, next week is a program on our HOST Global Grant Project, the White Clay Makerspace for the Lakota artists and craftspeople. Linda Peterson is our chief grant writer, will be there, and as well as John Rubelud, the president of our partner organization. So let the party begin.
So Cindy, with adult counselor, if I were to bring my wife, how do the accommodations work in the cabins? Do the counselors stay in a cabin with the campers, or how does that work?
They do. However, we do keep a couple cabins that I've talked to Sean about this that are just for adults or visitors. We've also talked about the opportunity of if someone had a mobile home of being able to bring that up and park it. So if you bring your wife, we'll figure it out.
Got it.
The cabins are air conditioned. The beds are not that uncomfortable. The food's good. But yeah, and that's the nice thing. I've already talked to Sean about could we have the whole camp, and there's nothing else scheduled that time. So we'll work with that. That's a conversation I can have with the camp.
Okay, Monty, the Lutheran Outdoors Camp in Custer, they have camps, week-long camps all summer long, and they've canceled theirs. And so I'm curious, Nebraska, you have 1 million more people, but your management of the corona issue has been outstanding when you compare it to other neighboring states. So you guys have done something right down there. So
Well,
I'm just curious.
UNMC.
What's that, Cindy?
It's UNMC. I mean, we have the world's foremost experts on infectious disease and pandemics at UNMC, and that's where our information comes from.
Okay. Well, you've done something right based on your numbers compared to, again, neighboring states. But in light of the decision that was made in the Black Hills for Lutheran Outdoors Camp, I'm just curious how, and I heard you say that we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But if you could just talk more about that. And also, what have you found successful with promotion of for our clubs to do to enhance? I mean, 4 people from the whole district to have this opportunity, it just seems like a tremendous experience, not unlike our exchange student program. And then finally, to communicate to the clubs to scholarship these students, and what kind of costs are involved for us to do that.
Lauren, I put in the chat box a link to a YouTube video. It's also on the front page of the RILA website. It was made last year by our leadership team. It's a great promotional tool. It really shows what camp's all about and what can happen. It's a great tool, but I don't know about Monty. It's word of mouth is why it's so successful for us. It was last year's campers promoting to new kids. In some communities, it's a badge of honor to be able to say that you got picked to go to RILA. Word of mouth, communication, sharing information. And then as far as cost, it's $400 a camper.
Okay.
I'll just step in on and try to go through those questions, Lauren. As far as the cost, what we want is no cost to the student. The sponsoring club will pick up the $400 that we're talking about. As far as Larry had talked about shuttling the kids down, we really want Rotarians to be bringing and taking back the children, the campers, but what we really need to happen there is it's no one-on-one on the travel. It's 2 adults or 2 campers, so it's no one-on-one on the travel. We have a restriction on that, but we want no cost incurred to these students. And so that is really where we're at. As far as promotion, as you're getting something rolling in a very, your district is spread very large geographically, and how do you promote that? And I think that's where we've had some traction issues. The kids in their own school are promoting pretty well, but that has been, we have one club here that typically has 8 to 10 applicants. They sometimes fund all those, they sometimes don't. Sometimes those alternates will be picked up by another club who didn't have enough students. But that is a very strong thread that they have in their fabric, that these kids want to go from that. And so we've had some towns that not so much. We have clubs that are within 50 miles of the camp that have only sent one kid the last 3 years. So it's just really how the leadership within the clubs, the district leadership, really is able to convey this message. And, you know, Nicole and Dave and Ina have really been pushing this, but, you know, it's in Nebraska. It's down south. Why would I go there? And I think that's where some of the hesitancy is possibly arising. We have, like I said, I grew up close to South Dakota. You have packing plant in Sioux Falls. That's a hotbed. We have a packing plant in Lexington and Grand Island plants. I'm just going to make a comment. If we look at minority races, the COVID rate ratio is much higher just because of the education. I am very Caucasian and very limited. I can't even speak English very well. And so I don't know how to communicate with some of these people. I have a daughter who's in social work, you know, did 3 study abroads in Spanish speaking countries, and she can't even get me. I've taken community college classes and I just can't do it. And so there are experts in that, but how do we reach these other people? We had a student from Sioux Falls. She was a refugee that came into the country. It was hard for me to understand her at first. She was very guarded. And by the end of camp, she came up and said, I didn't understand what you guys were doing. I didn't understand you. And she said, this has been a learning experience for me to just make our nation more cohesive, work together on things. And it was just, was a very eye-opening for me and for her as we went through that. So we are not without our problems, Lauren, as far as COVID. We've got some hotbeds that, as far as in business, we're locked down. We're an essential business that we've actually hired 4 additional employees full-time in the last 4 weeks. And so it's, we're kind of going on as normal, very remote. My technicians are not working amongst other humanoids. They're out in the fields. And so, you know, we're kind of going along, charging through, but so many businesses are hurting tremendously. Local foundation had a gift card program. They had instilled $150,000 into a matching gift card. You came in, said what company you wanted to buy the gift card for. They matched that $50 or $100, and those funds went directly, immediately to that company. The other $50 you'll spend with them as you wish to, but that card is only used for that company. So that's one option we've had down here to try instill the economy of some of the local businesses that are suffering terribly. So again, cost. We don't want these students to incur cost. They're spending their time. One thing I noticed in the chat over here, there was one parent said, if my daughter goes, I'd love to go. Cindy, you have a daughter that's been very involved in this. And if you had went her camper year, I don't know if the experience would have been the same for her.
If I would have gone any of the years, I'm actually invited to attend this year because Joe invited me. She didn't even want me there last year, and that was her first year on the leadership team. She would have ran and jumped in the river had I been there her camper year. And of course, every parent, every relationship with a teenager is different, but it really does depend on your relationship with your child. And honestly, I think when we divide up teams, if you're a parent and you're there, you won't be a part of your child's team. You wouldn't be in their cabin. You would be separated. Just like we separate all the kids from the same community are never in the same cabin or the same team. just to make sure you have your own experience. And I don't know, but I know some kids would have loved their parents to have been there. Maddie would have jumped in the river, literally.
I'm just saying some will not open up as much possibly.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to comment on about a couple coming down, we immerse ourselves, not that we're creepers, but we want to immerse the males in to give that mentoring capability for the senior counselors to the people in their cabin. That's not always your team. We try to get another cross section of people that you're able to meet during camp. And so really just that presence of an adult, you know, the first couple nights, it's like, let's go to bed. We're going to have a big day tomorrow. By the last couple nights, they're so exhausted, they're going to bed. But we still do checks where we'll walk around, make sure that we don't have anything going on within the facility between the segregated male and female area of camp. Haven't had a problem for at least the last 6 years there. And so just these are teenagers that are in an environment very remote located, closest hospital 45 miles away. So we really, these are our wards that we need to watch too, and make sure that we're having as safe an environment as we can in that regard.
I think your other question, Lauren, was about why we haven't canceled everything yet. UNL, Nebraska Extension, Nebraska 4-H are taking a 6 weeks out look. I work for UNL. We've been told we'll be working from home through June. We may be allowed to do face-to-face meetings again in June. We aren't allowed to do anything face-to-face right now. The next 2 weeks are going to tell a lot of the story as to what the summer looks like. The philosophy of our dean is he doesn't want to make a premature call and then have people go, why'd you cancel everything? We'll know in 2 weeks kind of where Nebraska is. And we really do have the advantage of UNMC and the science at UNMC. I mean, I feel really fortunate knowing the information that UNMC has been sending down since January. I feel like we were very prepared as a state. And, you know, I've been on weekly updates about COVID since February. So this isn't, I'm exhausted, but other than that, I feel like they know what we're going to do. I mean, part of me thinks that they're still going to shut camp down, but part of me thinks that we're going to be able to have camp with some modifications. What those will be, we'll know, and then we'll make a decision how to go forward.
And so basically camp is set up with a number of cabins that are between 8 and 20 people. So there is a fair amount of isolation at this facility the way it is. Scott, Ina, do you guys want to give just any comments that you have right at this time as we're closing out?
Well, you know, I would say that, you know, last year was the first year I've actually spent the whole week at camp with the kids. I was not technically a camper last year because it was my first week as a governor, as it was for Ina as well. We were there basically, you know, as our district leadership component. Ina was there as a counselor. She was actually much more immersed than I was. But, you know, Monty had already alluded to the fact that I had some personal issues that I had to deal with that week. And so going to camp for myself was, you know, I wrestled with the possibility of not going, and I felt it was really important to go, and I'm glad I did. The comments that some of the students made on this call was very relevant. The students that go, they come in on Wednesday, and they're standoffish. They're all kind of in their, you know, off in their own little world. By Wednesday night, they're the best of friends. And by Sunday, they don't want to go home.
Lauren, if I could add something, this is Dave. You may know this, but the $400 registration fee is covered half by Rotary clubs in our district and half by the district.
I forgot that.
So we do pay the registration fee between a combination of those funds. And then the district also provides the transportation to and from the club for the campers. So I don't really have too much other to add, other than a couple things have struck me through the course of this. Monty had mentioned a young woman from the Sioux Falls area, and we don't have to mention names, but I remember talking to her before she went to RILA, and she talked about how she was pretty shy and didn't know how it would go. And she came home a much more confident leader and person. It was a wonderful story. And then maybe it didn't strike the rest of you this morning, but I loved Anna's comment about when she was back home and stopped the car and picked up the garbage. I mean, that's an example of how things like this camp change people. And I thought that was a really sweet story. So for those of you on the call from 5610, I just want you to know that these people in 5630 know how to do this, and they have their act together, and we are extraordinarily fortunate to be in a partnership with them. One thing in terms of recruiting, Lauren, that we haven't done in this district, and they do well in 5630, and we just have to do that this coming year, is we need to identify a RILA representative in every club that can be the local contact person. We have not done that across the board. I tried to call literally every club president this year to pump them up, and also called many of the high school counseling offices in our district. And I think without the virus, our numbers would be quite different. But you need somebody, for instance, at Sioux Falls West, that not only will drop off the materials at the school, but will follow up on it. And that can't be done so much at the district level, but it can be done at the club level. So I hope one of our goals this coming year is to have a RILA rep from each club. Monty, won't that be a positive move, don't you think?
Definitely. Definitely, Dave. Yes.
I do have one thing to share. It's occurred to me as we've gone to a lot of video-based communication, it is effective. And our students, so as Morgan stated, you know, public speaking, not her thing. She's a totally different kid than she was. Anna is very well-spoken, very confident. I think that we have some students who have participated that might be able to do that little testimonial to share. And that might be very useful. So you have the students who have been through, you know, and they can, not 5 minutes, but something really short and impactful that might be able to be put together and routed, because I do think this is probably a piece of our world to stay. And kids are paying attention to it. So, just a suggestion.
Great one.
Cindy, what's UNMC?
University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha. It's actually where my daughter goes to school. You know, the one that didn't want to go to RILA, that's an introvert. And Monty laughs at me when I say that because no one believes she is an introvert. She is. But she came out of her shell thanks to RILA. And I still, this morning, she was here, she brought me some coffee. And I reminded her that she has to thank me for making her go to RILA. Yes, that's right, Ina. They handled the Ebola patients during the Ebola outbreak in the US. And some of the first patients that came in off the cruise ships were actually brought to Omaha and quarantined.
You know, as a self-promotion item here, real quick, if any of you, and I know Ina has already signed up for it, but tonight, I've got my district series, speaker series that is starting tonight. And we have a nurse from a gentleman who is a ICU nurse who's been on the forefront of infectious disease control, who is going to speak to our call at 7 p.m. tonight. And Ina, if you have the ability to share that with these folks here, but I mean, I can put it in the chat as well. If you want to sign up for it, we have room, and it should be a tremendous presentation. So I'll go get that link and share it here in the chat.
Thank you, Scott. And thank you, Monty and Cindy. Also, I know they're not on yet, I don't think, but Morgan and Anna, it was a really great program and presentation. And I hope generated some interest in our district. I do want to emphasize that I was there 2 years in a row, once as an observer. So I got to see kind of the full thing, you know, bouncing around and seeing how things go, and actually mentored with one of the leaders there. And then the second year as a senior counselor, very impressed. I think you've been doing it something like 30 years. These folks have it down, and their focus is just incredible, making sure that the kids have a good experience. And I just can't say enough about the program and the leadership and how they put it on.
Well, Ina, thank you for those comments, and everybody, thank you for the comments. We still have a lot of dents in the armor, but that's how life is. That's how we work through things, and to let these young adults experience the leadership and the sharing of how to solve problems. Like I said, these are the rock stars of the future. And it's just, when I'm really old, they're going to be taking care of policies. And so we want them equipped to be able to do those things as we move forward. I really appreciate the opportunity for our group to come on and give the presentation today. That's how we spread the word. That's how we do it. And so these are different times than we've had before, but wow, I think that we will overcome them and move on in a positive manner. So I want to thank everybody for their involvement in this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave and Ina and Monty. A very helpful presentation.
Well, I guess that's the end of the after party. So go forth and do good. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you, guys. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Bye. Good to see everyone.